Welcome to the La Scuola annual State of the School meeting. For those of you who have not been at one of these, this is a time when La Scuola, the leadership team, and most importantly, the La Scuola Board of Directors shares with you the wonderful thing that happened the previous year and also the plans for the future. It's a tradition that we have had from our very beginning. I think I'm very proud by working with the board has always been very active and proactive and innovative and also transparent about the plans for our future. I'm told that this is quite unique. This is not the approach that every organization chooses to have, but it is part of who we are. And so here we are with you tonight. La Scuola, just a reminder of our mission. We inspire brave learners to shape the future every day. And next slide. Okay, and also we are very proud to hopefully graduate students that will be open to the world. Our education is unique. We teach across languages, subjects. We take your children's questions very, very seriously. We believe that they should own their own learning. And we really believe that when they become the protagonists of their own learning journey, wonderful things and the extraordinary things can really happen. And with that, I would like to pass on the word. This is our agenda for tonight. A lot to cover. We will have some time for questions. We will start with the questions that were submitted before tonight, and then we'll take as many as we can. And if there are more coming, we will find the time to answer them. So the first very important point of our agenda is to meet the board of directors. In normal times, you would be in a room with all of us. We would be sharing some food and some wine, and you would have an opportunity to talk to your board. I'm also proud to say that we have a board of directors that's not just made of parents. The majority of independent schools have boards that are exclusively made up of parents of the school. And I think we're fortunate to have so many talented individuals that actually share that load with us all and really put their time and effort and passion into the La Scuola. One of them is one of our two co-chairs. We have two new board chairs this year after Sarah Goldman retired after many years on the board and 3 years as the board chair. We are delighted to have Lama Nachman, a parent of an 8th grader, and Lauren Sagan, who is not a parent of the school, but has long been associated with La Scuola. And I'm going to start by introducing Lauren, who is going to take it from here.
Great, thank you, Vali. Acknowledging Lama as co-chair. Vali, you have been like the captain of a ship at sea in a storm, what you've managed to accomplish. You've kept everybody afloat, you've kept everybody inspired, you've connected with the parents, the staff, the leadership. It's been remarkable. So from the board's perspective, our responsibility and our priority is to support Vali and the leadership team, but also look ahead and where are we going? Where is this ship going? And it's an exciting time. We have, besides getting through this year, which has been quite something, we're still looking forward and we have a lot to look forward to and we're very excited about it. So I don't want to talk too much about, we'll get into each of these pieces as we go through the evening, but I'd like each of the board members to sort of introduce themselves and just a little bit about what you're doing, what you're involved with, and what you're looking forward to. Lama, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Lama Nachman. I'm the board co-chair. I have a son who's in 8th grade. We've been at the school since he's been at 1st grade, and I've been on the board for the last 5 years.
Great. Frank, want to go next?
Sure. My name is Frank Barbieri. I am the father of Michiko Barbieri, who's a 1st grader at the Fell Street campus with my wife, Trish. I've been on the board for 1 year, and I'm thankful you used a 10-year-old picture in the slide. Thank you.
The next on our list there is David. David's not here tonight. His father sadly passed away about 10 days ago. He's our secretary, and he's been wonderful. And he's sorry he can't be here, but we're thinking about him. Aaron?
Hi, I'm Aaron. I've been on the board for about 4.5 years now, and for a bulk of that time as treasurer. And I have a daughter, Lucy, in 2nd grade, a son, Calvin, in Grandissimi, and then we also have a daughter who will be in Piccoli next year, Josephine.
Great. Grazia.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can see me because I'm fighting with Zoom at the moment. But I'm Grazia Bennett. I do not have any kid alla scuola, but I didn't have a choice. And Valentina didn't give me one. And I've been happily serving on the board for 6 years. This is going to be my last year. It was a wonderful adventure.
Elena.
Hi, good evening. I'm Helena Choi. I'm mother to a 2nd grader at the school, Ainsley Brown, and I've been on the board for 2 years.
Great. Vanessa?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Colella. I'm the mother of Teo, who's in 2nd grade, and just joined the board very recently. So thank you.
Yeah. So Joel, can you switch the slide? Maybe Eric, go next. You're on mute, Eric.
Sorry. I'm Eric Tokstad. I've been on the board for 1 year. My husband and I are parents to 2nd graders, Livia and Luca, who have been at La Scuola since 2014 in Spazio Gioco. And outside of La Scuola board, I'm an architect.
See, I think Greg is not here, correct?
Yeah.
Greg, are you here?
No, he's not.
Okay, so Greg is not here. He's our facilities committee, and I think Jeff is also not here. We work closely together on the campus and facilities, so they're not going to be here tonight. And Erika is also not here. She had something else she had to do. So those are 3 other board members that are very involved. Enrica's been working with Ellen on governance and been very effective. Jim, you there?
I'm here, thanks. My name is Jim Egan. This is my 2nd term, into the 2nd term on the board. And I'm a head of school like Valet, and I run a school called Synapse. It's a K-8 school in Silicon Valley. And like Loring mentioned, I want to reiterate, I know how difficult it is to operate a school during COVID. It's never been more difficult for Valet to do her job. But I think more importantly, the pastoral qualities that are needed for this work, she really possesses. And that more than anything else is quite necessary. And so I'm thrilled to be part of this board, and I'm thrilled and honored to be friends with Valet too. She's a real gem. Happy to be here.
Great. Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet Rassick. I am the mother of Nicholas Rassick, who is a 7th grader, and Sarah Rassick, who was part of the first 8th grade graduating class last year, who is now a freshman at Convent High School and absolutely knocking the ball out of the park. So very grateful for that and the foundation that she developed at La Scuola.
That's great. Is that everybody that's present? I just want to, if I think so, I just want to acknowledge Claudia and Joe and Sarah, who, even though they're former board members, they're still very involved and helpful, and they're carrying through the transition, and it's been great. So I think that one thing I wanted to say about the board as a whole is that it's a working board. Every board member is on 1 or 2 committees, and they work hard. Everybody is doing something meaningful and tangible. And I just want to say thank you, and that you, the community, understand how involved and passionate they are to make La Scuola what it is, and to make certain that Valentina and the staff have all the support and that we can give them. So thank you all.
And now it's the turn of the leadership team. So La Scuola leadership team, it would be great if you can briefly introduce yourselves. we know that we have some parents that have been here a long time. We have some parents that just joined us this year, whether you joined us in K8 or at the dog patch. I will love you to meet all of our leadership team that you may have not met in person, unfortunately, in COVID times. And I'm going to call you out. Federica.
Hi everyone, buonasera a tutti. My name is Federica Lentini. I'm the Early Childhood and Lower Elementary Director alla scuola. I've been at the school for many, many years. I also have 2 children, one in 4th grade and one in Grandissimi. Welcome everyone.
And Douglas Lowney.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug Lowney, the middle school director and MYP coordinator working at the Mission Campus. I'm in my 4th year at La Scuola. Happy to be with you tonight.
Dani.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dani Solberger. I'm the Director of Administration and Pandemic Coordinator here at La Scuola. I also have 2 children, my daughter Audrey in 5th grade and Balin, my son, in 2nd grade. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here tonight.
Dunia Solari.
Sorry, unmute. Hi, everyone, and good evening. My name is Dunia Solari. I'm the Director of Admissions. I also administer a sliding scale tuition and work with the marketing team. I've been here, this is my 9th year at La Scuola in this role, and I'm also a parent at the school. I've been here for over 12 years as a parent, and my son is in 8th grade. He will go to high school next year. Thank you.
Sally. Sally Peterson. Okay, let's move on to Steve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Smith. I am the newest member of the team. I am fast approaching 6 months in. It's an interesting time to start at a school during a pandemic. Let's say that's the least. I come previously from another independent school down on the peninsula where I spent 10 years there as their business director.
Sally, did you figure it out? No.
Okay, so then, Lauren, will you introduce
So
Robin?
I want to introduce Robin Bonasso, who has been involved in the school for years in different ways and is now living in Australia, but is helping us with our fundraising as we go forward. And it's been fantastic to have her back, even though it's long distance, and we're hoping she'll come back for a longer period of time. Robin.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hello from Australia. Nice to see all of you. Many of you may remember me from many years I spent at La Scuola, about 8 years, and my family has moved to Melbourne, so doing some work remotely. And it's so nice to reconnect with everyone and to meet all of you. So welcome.
Who else do we have? We never got Sally to work, did we? No.
Ciao, Lauren. Ciao tutti. Buonasera a tutti. Sorry, there's a sound issue on this other computer, but I'm Sally Peterson, Director of Teaching and Learning. This is my 8th year at La Scuola, and I was a parent about 12 years ago in the early days of preschool. Nice to see you.
Great.
All right. Can we get to the next slide? All right. So first of all, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see so many here. But for those of you who've been at La Scuola for a while, you all know that this event is really about getting together in the same space, a lot of hugging, great food and wine, in addition to all the amazing things that we hear about the school. So we'll have to do with this, but hopefully next year we will be having one of our real get-togethers. I want to start with saying thank you to the amazing Valentina. I mean, I'm sure you all agree with me that this has been a year like no other. And I think one of the amazing things about fantastic leaders is that in the hardest of times, they absolutely shine. And all of the amazing capabilities that they have come out in spades to show really the difference between what a great leadership looks like. So thank you, Valentina, for taking us through probably the hardest time ever that I can think of, and probably for a long time to come, or hopefully for a long time to come. I also want to thank the amazing leadership team. Honestly, if I look back and reflect upon all of the things that we managed to do, and every single time you all totally knocked it out of the park. You know, the amazing leadership team, the amazing faculty and staff. I mean, just kind of reflecting back into March, when we knew within a short period of time that we're all transitioning to online learning and literally switching to online learning without a hiccup, like literally overnight switching to online learning and figuring out and just leaning into it and figuring out how to actually do this in the best way that we can. Coming back to opening the school and being the earliest to open in-person learning, looking at all of the safety measures that need to be put in place and doing things differently. Frankly, that's, I think, one of the most amazing things about the excellence and of the management in the school. It's like, you know, there's creativity, there's agility. You know, you just come in and lean in and figure out how to do things that we've never known how to do before. There are no books to tell us about this or known methods to do that. You guys are at the forefront inventing these and figuring out how to do it. If I look at our first graduation, our inaugural class that made it into these amazing schools, right? In the middle of not even understanding how we're gonna manage, how do we celebrate these kids, and how do we make sure that they're getting through all that they need to actually get these amazing placements in these high schools. Admissions. I mean, I have no idea how the admission team went from here's how we've always been doing it to all of a sudden everything is going virtual. Figuring out how to reach out and putting together, the marketing task force and trying to figure out how do we reach out to parents in this very different time. Coming together and understanding that we really need to support our community and putting together the COVID-19, relief fund and ensuring that we're all in this together. LDV, like how do we celebrate again, knowing what our events are like and going virtual and actually managing to get the great results out of LDV. And then finally, being proactive about where the future is going and thinking about what do we need to do differently and how do we slow down some of the work on the facilities to make sure that we are financially responsible and making sure that we're not overextending ourselves. So across the board, it's just been an absolute amazing and wonderful to see all of you just step up and do this amazing work. I also want to thank all of our parents and, really just one of the best things that I think about La Scuola is this community and the community coming together. And you all amplify this every day with the way that you support each other and help each other and get through this together. And finally, I really want to thank the board. I mean, this is a board that rolls up their sleeves and, seeing them, I mean, I'm sure when you saw the slides, each one of those board members is on multiple committees. And those are not, oh, let's get together and just talk, right? This is rolling up their sleeves, figuring out what those facilities look like. How do we, how do we deal with COVID? What are all the different things that we want to ensure we have a financially stable school and all of these things, how are we thriving in the middle of a pandemic? So I really want to thank all of the board for, all of these volunteers who do this every day. So thank you all, and on to Valentina.
Grazie, Lama. Thank you so much for your kind words and for trying to make me cry in public again. I want to give those thanks back to all of you board members, but really to my incredible team. And this is made of all of the La Scuola employees, from our incredible facilities people to my leadership team to the faculty that continues to be at the heart of La Scuola. During the initial really weeks of the pandemic and maybe the first couple of months, I heard so many stories from other schools on really their leadership teams, understandably also completely breaking down, just not being able to cope with any of any of the things that were happening. And all of you were just, staying calm and carrying on and just making sure that things were proceeding there. And the teachers pivoted really over a weekend onto online education. And also really thank you, La Scuola teachers, for being pioneers once again, figuring out how to do on remote learning first, coming back to school, being one of the first schools back in session. We based every decision on science and data and not fiction or superstition. I'm also very thankful to the COVID-19 task force, including former board members, current board members, and the amazing Dr. Sanjay Basu that has been such a gift to La Scuola. As many of you parents are, we always have experts and people who are passionate about what they do. They just step up at the time of need. So grazie really too, because all of this would have not been possible without you. We had to face a pandemic, we had fires, we had a contentious election. This has not been an easy year. I also believe that, these things make us stronger and more resilient, and also make us realize what we really truly value in life. The Reggio Emilia is often described as a pedagogy of relationship. And I think this is a time where we all know that that really is what truly matters. And this is also what we hope to teach the students at La Scuola. So this has been a journey that's different for all of us. Many of us are back in person. We still have some children learning from home. We can't wait to welcome you back when you're ready. This is, not every family is able to return in person. And so we care for each and every one of you deeply. And so, we will be stronger together. We will continue to stay connected, and we will continue to pivot and challenges come our way. So next slide. Looking back, it's hard to think about this now, but the Friday before all of us went into shelter in place, that March 17th, we completed our PYP visit from the International Baccalaureate. We drove poor Gisela to SFO, where she had to fly back to Mexico. And all of that happened. And despite everything that was going on, incredible effort from the part of the team. We also received our accreditation. We did a verification visit for the MYP, the middle years program. So La Scuola is an international baccalaureate accredited school all the way, pre-K to 8, only one in San Francisco. And really being a globally minded organization and international school has really helped us during this time. We were connected to a network of schools all around the globe. We were talking to schools in China before any school in San Francisco was even realizing what was happening around us. And so these are also opportunities that your children will have in the future. So I think it was a real asset. We also obtained our CIS accreditation for the longest period that is granted, the 7 years. And so, a lot happened. It's hard to think about it now. And we also opened our mission campus, of course. That's a small, but not a small feat. Next slide. And so what's happening this year, we continued at the beginning of the year, again, like Lama mentioned, we slowed down our entitlement process for the mission side, but we kind of kept it moving slowly but surely in a financially conservative way. And we're also starting to look at the potential move to the mission sooner than later. And we'll be talking about that a bit later during this presentation. We will continue to navigate the stormy seas. It's not easy to teach this way. I think it's still a wonder when we walk into the campuses of La Scuola, how students have adapted. Remember, I know you're sick of hearing me saying this, hold the high image of your child. Holding a high image of the child is at the heart of what we do at La Scuola, and we live that every day. The 3-year-olds are sometimes better at keeping their masks on than people we see strolling around on the Marina District. And so we should be proud of our students, how they have adapted. And I think it's been a good experience for them. and also the ones that had to adapt being home away from their friends and have still, I think, managed to have a good learning experience so far. We have also launched a new initiative. We talked, as you know, we've worked with Reggio Children in Italy for many years. We're now actually co-hosting professional development experiences for teachers. So La Scuola is the chosen site in the US, really. So it's the reference point for California. And so there is one actually coming up this Saturday. And huge thank you to Federica Lentini for keeping that going. We are, your teachers are really leaders in their field, or Reggio Children would have not chosen us. And so it's something we're really proud. Professional development for teachers is key for us, but also our teachers doing professional development for others. It's a great experience for them, and it really impacts the experience of your child greatly. And last but not least, we did some reorganization as well. Sally will be focused on curriculum and vertical and horizontal alignment. What we do is complex. And Federica Lentini now oversees pre-K through second, and Doug oversees the Mission Campus, so grade 3 through 8. So thank you both for taking on that challenge, again, at a time of great change. Next. Just a reminder, between all this, we still are kind of midway now, halfway through our strategic plan. For those of you who have been here for a while, you may remember those great sessions that we had in the multipurpose room at FEL. If you weren't here, know that a strategic plan really is a community effort. It's made up of groups of teachers, parents, board members that work together and come up with what do we need to do in the next 5 years. We landed on this with 5 broad topics and categories that we focus on, and within each of these we have goals for each of the years that are part of the strategic plan. A strategic plan is a living document and needs to change as the world changes. So next slide. So we start with heart and mind. This is really about our program and making sure that it continues to be strong, it continues to evolve in the way it should. Next. And with that, you all know, if you're here, these are the things that we do well at La Scuola. It's a really truly unique and winning combinations, I think, of 3 things that result in a very unique experience for your child. And with that, we're gonna pass it on to our division heads, starting from Federica Lentini, who's gonna tell you a little bit about what's going on in the preschool.
Yes. Ciao a tutti. So what happened in the early childhood program? Actually, I just want to focus a little bit on this beautiful picture of Dorothea. She's a child in the 3 and 4 years old class. And I just love the fact that she's looking at the mirror, and before she's jumping in, she's taking step by step. So that's what I feel like the school has been doing during this kind of difficult time. So jumping on the remote learning was not really, easy for the pre-K. But I'm really glad and really happy, and I'm just amazed about the amazing job that the teachers have been doing. The reopening was also something that was, difficult to do it, but at the same time, we have, more classrooms, smaller sites. So there is actually a lot of going on with such a small group of children. As Valerie was mentioned, we are now really focusing on professional development and support for growth of our faculty, also with this amazing collaboration with Reggio Children, that we're offering webinar for educators around the world. So it's been an amazing thing to share our job with all of them. And I'm also happy to say that also the DI curriculum is being really integrated, and now is like a big, big part on the pre-K curriculum. Next slide. Talking about elementary program, as Vale mentioned, the IB, PYP visit report, Scuola Paritaria, also the CIIS and the WASC action plan, something that also happened. We had an amazing winter concert in 2019 at the Herbst Theater, so we hope we're gonna have that soon as possible. And also our amazing final exhibit that was happening actually through Zoom. That was also an amazing event. I think you were all there. And I'm gonna pass, I think, to Doug. He's gonna talk about community and the COVID-19 pilot.
Thanks, Fede. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk first about upper elementary and then middle school. And I want to say that an accomplishment, a little bit out of order here, talking about COVID first because it came first. Something we're really most proud of in the last year at the upper elementary was our successful shift to remote learning, in which we implemented remote learning in the space of 2 days, and teachers and staff across the school adopted new digital tools and teaching strategies and adapted our tried and true tools in new ways. And in 2.5 months of remote learning in the spring, we were able to maintain our learning goals for the year and engage in high quality inquiry across the grade levels. All teachers and also students in grades 3 and up really developed significant digital literacy skills in the spring. And this culminated in our online grade 5 PYP exhibition with online presentations and breakout sessions that included guests from around the world. Starting the year online presented a new set of challenges as we did not have the routines of in-person learning and the freshness of in-person relationships to rely on. In the elementary school, we had adopted Toddle Classroom and Class Journal, which was a very powerful tool for us to make learning visible and to create an effective online and now hybrid learning environment. We are proud of our commitment to the families who are in the distance learning program, of the inclusion and engagement of young distance learners, both in the independent remote learning cohorts and those who are streaming in to online, to on-campus learning. Moving grade 3 through 5 to the Mission Campus really represents an important milestone in the history of La Scuola. Even without the pandemic, it would have been an important moment in the school's history. But to reopen the Mission Campus by inviting grade 3 to 5 over was a sign that we were just in the face of crisis, we are continuing to grow and to pursue our long-term plans to unify the K-8 community. And the upper elementary students had just 2 weeks of paradise of having this big urban campus to themselves. They thought it was all themselves, and they found out otherwise 2 weeks later. Just to rejoice in the largeness of the yard compared to Fell, and the relative warmth and quiet of the Mission. And it was just a beautiful way to come back after 6 months away, to have that young, joyful energy with us. Teachers are particularly proud of elementary school students' strict adherence to safety protocols and the students' just deep understanding of their shared responsibility for the safety of all members of the community. Like, I am very proud of the 3 to 5 students and just being models of COVID safe kids. I think I want to go to the next slide. At the middle school level, the year behind us and the year ahead of us have been really momentous. Last fall, we had our first candidates for high school admissions, and they had a uniformly successful experience with all students matriculating at their first or second choice schools. So we have alumni today at International High School, Convent of the Sacred Heart, Urban, Sacred Heart Cathedral, Bay, Drew, and Mission High School. And in the last few months, as Janet shared earlier, I have heard personally from high school administrators who have just communicated sincere appreciation for the preparation and enthusiasm for learning that our alumni are showing in their 9th grade. As 9th graders, pretty good, in independent schools in the city. Another highlight of last year was 8th graders engaging in the culminating moment of the middle years program, which is the community project, in which students investigate and take action in response to real world problems and then present their findings in a public forum. And these students started that in person and moved it online and pivoted in just a really beautiful way and kept their commitment and adapted to what the needs of the community were as we all started to shelter in place. And while we were in remote learning, the middle school staff rallied to host an online visit from the IB as part of our final authorization for the middle years program. And then we learned only days later after the visit that we were fully authorized, becoming the only IB, PYP, and MYP school in the city of San Francisco. Because we had such a small cohort in the class of 2020, we were able to hold a socially distanced graduation ceremony, which we streamed to friends and family around the world. Another just great milestone in the history of the school. And this year, a signal milestone is our current academic, of the current academic year is the implementation of advanced Spanish language and literature, which runs parallel to our advanced Italian program in the middle school. And it's also our first year that we offer single level cohorts in the middle school. So graduating to a fully 3-year middle school program. So we're feeling much more established. Things are up in the air out in the world, but we're feeling like a much more established school than we were at the last time we had this meeting a year ago. Thanks.
Next slide, Dani.
Okay, a little bit about enrollment and admissions at La Scuola. We're going to start with the numbers. As you can see, we've had a lot of growth over the last 10 years, and it keeps going. There's a little dip this year for obvious reasons. And if you look at the last line, 2020-21, it is mostly in the preschool, actually, because of health guidelines. We weren't able to host the Spazio Gioco program, and last year we had 18 children. We've also had to reduce our class sizes, so up to 14 kids with 2 teachers rather than about 21 with 3 teachers. But we're looking, looking ahead. I know these numbers will come back. And then if you look at the K-8 numbers, in fact, we've had quite a bit of growth, from 165 to 182, and this number will keep going up over the next 6 years until we grow to 2 sections per grade in all grades at La Scuola. Beyond the numbers, though, this is really about people. This is about community. Admissions and enrollment is about community building, and this is the joy of the work that I do and that I get to do with the team here. And obviously growing community is a community effort. So I want to ask you all to tell your friends about La Scuola. In fact, we have 3 admissions events coming up this week. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we have the preschool open house. At 6:30, we have the K-5 open house. And then the following day, Thursday at 5 o'clock, we have the middle school information session. So if you haven't told all your friends, tell them to come and join us. They can always email me or call me if they still need the link. On top of that, feel free to leave reviews on sites that parents look at that. Particularly during COVID, it's hard to get on the playground and chat to people, which is typically where word of mouth happens. So, there's lots you can all do, and you can all contribute. The other thing I have to mention that's been very special to me this year is that I get to have recess duty in the yard. So I see many of your children, and just like Valentina mentioned, the high image of the child, I have such a high image of the teacher. So here's a shout out to all my colleagues, because after an hour outside with 10 kindergartners, I am in awe of what they do every day. So I just want to mention that as well. Next slide. COVID-19 relief fund and sliding scale tuition. I am very grateful to the board of directors that this has been such a priority at La Scuola. It's really an incredible priority, and I am so grateful because the emergency fund, as you can see, about 20 families have benefited so far, a total of $86,000, around $86,000. The sliding scale tuition budget has really doubled in the last 2 years. So we're now at about 16% of gross tuition income. Just for comparison, a lot of other independent schools around 10 to 15%. So you can see that there is a huge commitment when we are at 16% of tuition income. Obviously, this number will level out a little bit when we are beyond COVID and things go back to normal in terms of enrollment numbers. The other thing I want to mention is our ongoing partnership with the SMART program and the Breakthrough program. La Scuola, currently we have 5 students from the SMART program in our middle school. And this is such a powerful organization in the city of San Francisco. They place academically interested and high achieving aspiring middle schoolers from who are underserved in public schools into independent schools, and they mentor them academically and in other ways twice a week throughout their time until they graduate from high school and get them into college. And so they have a 100% high school graduation rate for their students. And I'm just very proud to be collaborating with them. It's a really great organization. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. To piggyback on Dunya's topic around admissions and enrollment, just want to highlight some of the financial numbers that we've had here at the school, basically over the past 5 years. Piggybacking on the enrollment growth that we have seen, it goes without saying that the gross revenue for the school has seen substantial growth over these past 5 years. Being an independent school, we are primarily a tuition and fee driven environment. So you'll notice on the slide here that 90 to 92% of all revenue brought in for the institution is through tuition and fees. And then the remaining amount, hovering around the 8 to 10% range, comes in via fundraising. What's interesting is if you look at the total revenue for 2016-17 compared to 2019-20, we've almost increased 100% in revenue. So I mean, that's quite a trajectory when you think about it over 4 years. And then when you look at the budget for this year, for 2021, it looks like we sort of plateau there for a little bit. And we can tie that back directly to COVID and what is occurring during this school year. I anticipate post-COVID, if that's next academic year, maybe the year after, not sure how this world is going to actually turn over the next 12 months, I anticipate we'll be seeing the same type of growth in revenues. Next slide, please. If you look at the expenses now, you can see the same trend over the past 4 years from the 16-17 academic year through the 19-20 academic year. You see that same, nice line straight up. I mean, this is your typical graph almost. And then when you get to the 2021 budget year, you can see again, we've also sort of topped out. And that again is tied directly to COVID-19. The school had to institute some cost-saving measures. We also had unexpected expenses come up because of COVID-19. So it became a balancing act of rearranging funds so that we could support the program adequately. Without saying, obviously salary and benefits, that's our primary expense through the institution. So that's the graph charts, the blue color there. You can see on average anywhere from 63% back in 16-17 to 59% for the current budget year is going to support your faculty and staff, the heart and soul of the institution. These are the people that keep this school running, and these are the people for whom your children probably carry great love and great respect and great joy and want to be at the school. So when people think, well, why does it cost so much to run a school? It's the people, and the people are the heart of the institution. So I think that's very important to call out. Also, something to note, tying back to what Dunya spoke around sliding scale tuition, which is the top color there, the gray color, you'll see that it has grown, I'll say exponentially, over the past 5 years. When you look back to the 16-17 school year, the school was awarding just a tad under $161,000 in sliding scale tuition. When you look to the current school year, we're almost at 1.6 million. So we've gone from 3% of our expenses 5 years ago being for sliding scale to about 14 to 16% of our expenses going for sliding scale currently. And I think that speaks strongly to who we are as an institution. It speaks to the effort of the school wanting to be an institution that is inclusive, that is diverse, that is equitable, and I think lots of times people will equate DEI, diversity, equality, inclusivity, as being a socioeconomic thing. And sliding scale will often speak to that, but it is so much more than just the dollars. It's an important step for the institution. And this is the This is the quiet behind the scenes way that the admission and the business office support that work. So with that, I will pass it off to the next person.
And I was wondering actually if our treasurer, Aaron Harms, would like to add anything to this. Aaron, are you still there?
I'm here. Yeah, no, Steve gave a great overview of the finances and has done a really a tremendous job along with Valentina of getting up to speed during these very unusual times, and really brings not only a very detail-oriented but also a very strategic mindset to the finance function, which has been fantastic. I often talk about the big choices as a triad, and that triad is kind of interdependent. How much do we increase tuition is one end of the triad. How much do we increase salaries, pay, and benefits for those fantastic teachers and administrators that we all value so much and care so deeply for? And then how much do we invest in sliding scale tuition? A lot of the other expenses that Steve shared, things like leases, are kind of more or less set in stone. So those are the big choices. Those are the big balancing acts that we wrestle with as a board every single year, really. And if anybody is interested in kind of, digging a level deeper behind those numbers, then certainly welcome a conversation. I've had conversation with many parents over the years, and it shouldn't be a mystery, and happy to dig into more of that with any one of you.
And Aaron, thank you so much for being so supportive of us at the time of crisis in the spring. So it's my opportunity to say thank you. Annual giving, is this Janet?
Yeah, this is me. So I want to say thanks to Steve and to Aaron for kind of teeing it up nicely for me. So Steve mentioned a little bit about the operational budget and tuition covering 90%. Well, where does the other 10% come from? That 10% comes from our annual giving. You can see a nice upward trajectory on this slide. One thing that I want to point out, which I can't even begin to explain how miraculous it is the fact that in the middle of a global pandemic, we narrowly missed our fundraising budget. I can't even express how amazing that is to me. As we talk a little bit about this 10%, the 10% that I'm talking about is what I like to think as the magic of La Scuola. It's the little things. It's the things like the music program, the fact that our students performed for the President of Italy. It's the gardening program. It's those little things of, my kids as we walk around Marin, pointing out all of these amazing things that I have no idea about. It's the development of our faculty and our staff. All those little extra things that go such a long way into creating the magic of La Scuola and the family of La Scuola. As we talk about annual giving, there's two main components that we're going to look at. The first one is the annual fund. For those of you who are new to the school, I'm sure you've seen now a couple messages from Valentina, and hopefully your class chair has also reached out to you. So many times you hear about the La Scuola family. The ask here is for 100% participation. It's not even the dollar amount that we're so focused on. Historically, that dollar amount may be $50 or it may be $50,000, but it's the community that we build together. And I see in the chat a note that it is perfect timing as well, and that today is Giving Tuesday. So what better time to focus on all of the joy that La Scuola brings to us, how we can give back in that regard. The other piece to this is our amazing event that we hold every year, La Dolce Vita. I've been a member of the La Scuola community now. This is our 4th year, and was lucky enough to attend live in person, where it's a magical event. Looking back to last year, where it was 100% virtual, you know what? It was completely magical in a different way. From Maestro Carlo managing to put together a musical performance, to our homemade signs of what we appreciate. Fund a need as part of La Dolce Vita. 16% of total gross tuition revenue. 30% of our students this year are part of that sliding scale tuition. Also, you know, let's think about, as we go back to annual fund a little bit, one thing that I was remiss in mentioning is the fact that we were able to help 20 families in this global pandemic by creating a relief fund. And again, that is a big thank you to all of you for all of your help and all that you do for La Scuola. A little shout out for La Dolce Vita. As someone in a previous lifetime who worked on a silent auction, which was significantly smaller than the grandeur that is La Dolce Vita, they are always looking for volunteers. I don't think that Margot is able to be with us today, but as a board, we've had a sneak peek at some of the amazing ideas that she has coming for us. I believe that the save the date went out, that it's going to be Saturday, March 20th. You see in front of you everybody who is a part of the committee. I know that they are always willing and would love to have any volunteers. So if anyone has any interest in joining the team, you see the email on the slide.
Thank you so much, Janet. I'm going to take a minute to talk about our faculty and staff and how, as the kind of bedrock of our school here, how really truly important they are and how much we invest and value every single member of our team. Our competitive compensation package, we continue to track with other independent schools across California and the nation, and over the past few years have been actually working to make sure that salaries are, targeting to get them within 95% of SFUSD salaries and 75% of what is reported to CalISBOA, which is a business officers association in California here. So we feel very happy with what we can provide in terms of salary our growing staff and professional development, actually, which is one of, I think, the biggest draws also for our staff, not only to keep them engaged and evolving in their teaching practices, but also how it reflects in the students' experience here at La Scuola. This year, we have kind of looked inward and with the help of Melina Madrigal and Sachi Dingra, our DEI coordinators, I know we'll talk about a little bit later on, but have made diversity, equity, and inclusion a big part of our professional development days with students, with teachers and staff. And then supporting the needs of our staff through COVID. As everybody has mentioned earlier, I mean, this has been an unprecedented time, and figuring out ways that we can, provide knowledge, really, actually, I think has been one of the most powerful tools. So information, providing resources to our teachers and our administrative staff, and making sure that they, their questions go answered. They have the latest. We have a direct pipeline to the health department, which has been an amazing resource for us. We have the incredible Dr. Basu and the COVID task force, who have been just, I personally am incredibly grateful for all of your guidance and just assistance getting us to where we are today. And that, goes without, acknowledging all the creating the infrastructure to be safely on campus, for the health department visits and the assessments, and that we've really gone through a roller coaster of experiences these past few months. And I'm very proud of all the work that the team has done and everybody's commitment to keeping each other safe in the community. We've also been able to, given the nimbleness of our community, be a little bit more flexible. We've adjusted our winter holidays with the intention of, trying to have everyone see families and friends that they might not have been able to before. I know that, the numbers are not going our way right now, but, and supporting also our visa and immigration.
Go ahead.
Okay. Support, as for the teachers and staff that need that assistance as well. I'm going to hand it over now to. Oh, I didn't even show the slide. Sorry, everyone. Here we go. Next slide. Dunya, I believe this one is you.
Yes, as Danny was saying, diversity, equity, and inclusion is growing in importance at La Scuola. I think over the years it's really grown, and interest has grown, and efforts have definitely grown. In terms of the statistics, the ethnicity right now, about 33% of our families at La Scuola are identified as non-white. This is slightly down from last year, and I think in part because of the numbers that I showed you that are dipped with COVID. At the same time, sliding scale tuition has risen to 30%, and that's a big commitment of our school. Languages spoken in the community, we're at about 29 and growing. Sexual orientation, 3% LGBTQ families, and 34 zip codes represented school-wide. Okay, next slide.
All right, so, one of actually the amazing things here that I'm realizing is that, and how it should be, is that DEI should show up in every part of this presentation, which kind of almost makes the whole slide for me kind of a moot slide. But, over the last few years, we've really put in quite a bit of effort across the community, faculty, staff, parents, boards, to really advance DEI within La Scuola and every fabric of La Scuola. And, we've taken on the following goals that we've defined actually a couple of years ago, and we've been essentially marching every year to make sure that we are really advancing each one of them. So on the DEI training to support teachers, students, parents, and the board, you've heard already about, the professional development. It's part of every single PD. We've done actually this year DEI training with Allison Park with the board. We're actually doing also parent events over this year that we're gonna we'll be announcing soon, actually. In the curriculum, you've also seen in the beginning of the presentation that we've actually incorporated the Pollyanna curriculum from preschool all the way to 8th grade, and that's been, a major undertaking that has happened actually this year. So I'm really glad to see that. In terms of communication, we've been actually trying to even, get in the Bulletino a consistent communication. We've actually done the anti-racism statement that we've actually released earlier in the beginning of the year, and we're continuing to work on improving information on the website and so on. In terms of connecting with the broader community and connecting with different organizations across Mission, FEL, and Dogpatch, this has been kind of a struggle this year to try to advance this goal because of the fact that clearly there isn't anything that's happening physically. So I've been actually thinking about how can we do that in virtual ways. But that's one of the goals that hasn't really advanced much this year. And then in terms of diversity representation, Dunya has shared the numbers and the statistics, but also one of the things that Danny has been looking into is, how do we ensure that as we're looking for adding teachers, for example, how do we actually get to our diversity goals, and how do we actually ensure that we're sourcing from the right places to make sure that we are actually not hitting this constant problem of, but how do we find diverse teachers, which is a struggle in every place that I've seen so far. So it's really, we need to reach into different places to be able to actually get that. The other thing that we've actually put in terms of the governance side is putting in diversity front and center in also looking for board representation. And then finally, from an inclusion perspective, right, we've been looking at, this is frankly, I would say this is one of the things that is really awesome about La Scuola in general. You know, every time we get the parent surveys, and you know, we see how great La Scuola is doing actually from an inclusion perspective. But you know, we continue to work on you know, building different affinity groups, having different events across parents, bringing us all together to be able to actually have the hard conversations and feeling like we can support each other, and you know, looking at how do we support single parents and so on. So with that, next slide. I guess somebody else.
This one is me, and I see some edits being made real time at the moment, so I don't know if they're going to show up here on my screen. But every year we run a survey, 2 surveys actually. So one at the end of the year. This year, I believe it was sent in July, and a unique year for sure. But we had about 70 of our families respond, and you can see some of the highlights from last year's survey. You know, one I want to point out is just the tremendous, you know, high satisfaction rate. Over 90% of our families are super satisfied with their experience here at La Scuola. And one of the things that rises to the top is getting back to what we spoke about earlier, is the quality of our teachers. Over 93% of families report that that's one of the main reasons why they are here. So quality of teachers as well as the school community are at the forefront in keeping our community together and really contributing to that satisfaction. And as Dunya mentioned, you know, with the numbers to back it up, over 70% of our families do hear about school from word of mouth. So just how important it is for everybody to be talking and being, you know, the ambassadors of our program at whatever age, pre-K through 8. A mid-year survey is coming soon. So I'm going to take us to the next slide, where we want everyone to stay engaged. There are so many ways, even in a remote environment, whether it's participating, you know, with PALS, whether you're joining a committee or, you know, helping to strengthen the PALS organization, getting involved in school activities and events. We have a parent education series of events that we'll be sharing you know, more with our community very soon. Family education series, a spotlight series, as well as DEI events. So this is for anybody that is interested. They cover a range of topics, and now being virtual, hopefully they're much easier for people to attend. And then we also are going to be hosting Q&A sessions and office hours. So continually keeping the open lines of communication for our parent community to speak with us, ask us questions. I know from a COVID perspective, actually, the questions that everybody's been asking have been super helpful as well, guiding us to figure out the answers that we need and that, you know, we want to provide for our families. With that, I'm going to take us actually to a COVID update slide here. So talking about COVID best practices, I want to thank our faculty and staff for being, you know, committed to all of these best practices that we've been in, you know, in the position of implementing across all of our campuses. It looks slightly different across each campus from a facilities perspective, which you know, contributes even more to the intricate web of what we've been trying to create here. I actually got off a call today with the health department that, you know, suggested that keeping the cohorts, the masks, and the physical distancing are still rise to the top in terms of importance of keeping your community safe and healthy. She actually confirmed with us, which I'm sure everyone hears in the news as well, but there is increasing evidence that shows that schools are not the main drivers of transmission. So even in San Francisco, while there have been cases, you know, spotted at different campuses in the city, it doesn't seem to be spreading too much on campuses, especially, you know, when you compare it to restaurants or construction sites or other activities that we all do in our community. So many of you have also been asking about, you know, if now that we're in the purple zone, if we are going to be closing, if there's a threshold. And actually the health department has no numeric threshold or trigger for closing schools right now, which is good news. Yeah, and with that, actually, I'm going to move on into permanence and hand off to Eric, I believe.
Hey, Dani, I just wanted to find a moment to thank you for all the work that you do as the pandemic coordinator. I'm sure this was probably not the title you were aspiring to when you were in high school, deciding what to do in life. and you've been exceptional. I think I've shared this with at least some of you that at the last meeting with the health department, I had head of schools asking me where I found Annie, if she had a sister or a brother that they could hire. So thank you so much for your commitment to the health and safety of the entire La Scuola community.
Thank you. Thank you, Vale.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Tokstad, and I'm co-chair with Frank Barbieri of the Embrace Campaign Committee, which is La Scuola's name for the Capital Campaign Committee, as well as a member of the Facilities Committee and the Advancement Committees. I'd like to update you a little bit on what Embrace or the Capital Campaigns and the Facilities Committees support. Essentially, it supports our permanence. It assures us that we have a home for the future, which is now you're on that slide. Here's some details of how we get there. The Scuola has 3 existing campuses: the Dog Patch for the preschool, which has a long-term lease and a great relationship with our landlord; the Fell Street for K-2, which has a lease until 2024; and the Mission Campus for grades 3 through 8, which has a 60-year lease from the San Francisco Catholic Archdiocese. Next slide. The goal for La Scuola is to have 2 permanent campuses, one for preschool and one for K through 8, designed in such a way to support our Reggio philosophy that the classroom environment is the 3rd teacher. We have a long relationship with an architect in Modena, Italia, named Michele Zini, who designs Reggio schools worldwide. He's become a really close friend of La Scuola for the years, and he's designed the environment for the Dog Patch campus. He's helped fix up the Bell Street campus as best as he could in terms of the old Catholic school there. And he's designed the new Grandissimi building, which was built on the preschool campus. When La Scuola was lucky to find and secure the lease for the Mission Campus, we reached out again to Michele Zini, and he has worked closely with us to develop the master plan and the individual building designs for that campus. And let me share with you now some of the details for the Mission Campus. Next slide. So the Mission Campus is made up of 3 existing buildings. The first is the St. Charles building, which is the handsome historic wood school building at the corner of 18th Street and Shotwell. We will be doing an historic renovation. As part of that, this building will be raised 18 inches when we install new foundations so that it can have 3 full floors of classrooms for the future elementary school. The convent, which is to the left of the St. Charles, which is the ugly 1950s building, will be torn down. And a new bespoke main building will be designed and constructed to contain a main entry, classrooms, atelier, dining and kitchen spaces, and a library. And that's what you see there on the new building slide on the upper left, that building there. And we'll show you some more closer up pictures later. The third building is a building around the corner on South Van Ness, which is a 1930s stucco facade. It has an historic exterior, even though it's 1930s, and the interior will be rebuilt by us to contain a middle school and a large space that will be used for an all-school theater and a gym. Next slide, please. Looking back, during the 1920 academic year, we've done some structural and cosmetic renovations to the St. Charles building. We've completed a design for the Mission project, and we've shared it with the community, which was a great process. The planning department applications for the Mission project are in progress. The classroom and dog patch remodel and scheduled and completed in the summer of 2020. The initiated construction financing discussions with banks. We've hired a general contractor, and because of COVID, we've put a pause on the actual start of construction for the main buildings. Looking ahead, moving K-8 to the Mission Campus, we're exploring as early as next year how we could potentially install temporary classrooms where we could have a full K-8 on the Mission Campus and exit the Fell Street lease early. Next slide. So we currently occupy the St. Charles building with grades 3 through 8, and therefore we plan to play what I call a game of musical buildings, to renovate the Mission Campus buildings in stages so as to allow the growth of two classes per grade, which commenced in 2018 and will continue until all K through 8 grades are comprising of 2 classes. The next slide. So that shows the left there was the main building, the St. Charles on the right. This is a close-up of the new entry that would be in the main building, that has a kind of a piazza out on the sidewalk, and we're working with the city on that and how there would be an entry.
And Eric, I just wanted to add a brief one on this one. I just want to know that we reached out to the community in the mission, and we got some feedback from them to make sure that the building would be more open to the community, look more hospitable, and there would be a connection between us and the mission community around us.
Yes. Where that building is now is where the convent is now. So that's where you imagine that ugly 1950s building, that is where this main building is going to be built. The next slide. That's a view of the back, an aerial view. So the left there is a peekaboo of the back of St. Charles, the existing Victorian building. This is the back of the new main building, and the play yard and the garden area and all of that is kind of imagined out here in the center. The next slide. There's some, if you could read floor plans, you don't have to look at this too hard. The idea is that there's the existing building on the right there of the historic Victorian St. Charles, and then there's a new building on the left, and there'll be a bridge across in the top that connects the two. But the idea is that the new main building is more of an open, more kind of what I call Reggio approach to school architecture. And we're doing the best we can in terms of the what we can do with the historic interior of the St. Charles. The next slide. That's a potential rendering of what the new main entry would be. So you see the colorful facade on the left, that's the front of the building. There'd be this kind of main vertical space. These are all ideas that we haven't drawn them beyond these ideas yet, but the idea is that you would have a very dynamic, fluid interior that can be used for teaching and exploring. Next slide. This is upstairs in some of the classrooms, the idea that we would have mobile walls that we could expand or contract spaces as they need. The next slide. The San Carlos Hall, the San Carlos is the building around the corner on South Van Ness. That would be the middle school. There'd be some, middle school has different needs in terms of classrooms. There's classrooms by subject, not by grade. So we would have the classrooms upstairs. The main ground floor is a theater / gym, and that's a little rendering on the lower left there. That could be how we might make that space. Next slide. Those are some, we talk about our piazza in our space, like we have at the dog patch. This is a piazza at the San Carlos upstairs where the middle schoolers could meet and hang out. It'll have a roof terrace with Aisha having her fun, doing her pots and different things around there. And it'd be an outdoor space for education as well. The next slide. And the dog patch campus. So before I get into that, so again, remembering, so how are we going to do this? Let's pretend we won the lot, but let's go back one slide just before we get to this one. If you wouldn't mind, go back, thank you. So how is this all going to happen, and when is this all going to happen? So let's pretend La Scuola won lottery tomorrow night, and the drawings and the permits and the construction happened in a perfect world scenario. First, we would tear down the convent, and we would do that this summer when kids are off and we can do the messy work. The next is this spring, we would start construction on San Carlos, and 18 months later, in the fall of 2022, classes would start there. The third step, we would start construction on the new main building as fast as we could, potentially with classes starting in that as soon as fall of 2024. And in the fall of 2024, the St. Charles is finally done. I'm sorry, the San Carlos is done. St. Charles, we would be done in potentially 2026 with the idea that the entire project is done and we're occupying for the future. So back to the next slide now, going forward. Again, remember we won the lottery. We're also busy at the Dogpatch campus, where there's the potential to add an additional floor to the Grandissimi building. That building was designed so that it could be done. The foundations and the walls were planned that way. We're gonna do some work into the play yard to add more soft areas to more, get rid of some of that asphalt. And we're going to fix the entrance, which is not the most elegant entrance. The chain link fence is not award-winning and not part of our Reggio experience. So the next slide, that shows a potential rendering of how we could do the second floor above the Grandissimi building. The spaces up there would be meeting spaces for professional development and offices for staff. You can't put pre-K on a second floor. The codes don't allow it. So next slide. So coming back, I thought we had another slide. Well, we won't. Well, we lost a couple of slides. But coming back to reality, we probably aren't going to win lottery tomorrow night. So how much is this going to cost, and how are we going to pay for it? What we're going to do is we're going to borrow money in the way of construction financing. But no bank is going to loan us money unless we have a sizable down payment. And banks also, just like us when we apply for a home loan, like to see some things but before they loan money to schools. And one of the things they like to see is 100% participation in the annual fund. So it's a plug for us to all, $5, $100, whatever you can do, they want to see 100 participation. That's an important thing that banks look for. And they also look for year-over-year growth in enrollment. So what does this all mean for La Scuola in terms of how much it's going to take? It's going to take about $500,000 to mobilize the demolition of the convent. That one's good. And build the temporary buildings. Our initial estimates for San Carlos, again, that's the building around on the South Van Ness for the middle school, is about 18 million. The future main building, we haven't cost estimated that yet, but we're thinking it's probably about 20 million. And the final phase for St. Charles, we're hoping to complete for less than 10 million. So those of you who are taking notes and doing the math, that's about $50 million that we're looking at in capital construction costs. If we could get 2 of you to donate 25 million tonight, then we'd be set and we wouldn't have to go out and buy our lottery tickets tomorrow night. But seriously, what we need to do is we need to figure out how we can mobilize rapidly and efficiently. And in reality, the pandemic has impacted our plans. And instead of, as I mentioned, instead of starting San Carlos this spring, we've pushed it out a bit, which in turn pushes out what I call the musical chairs of the musical buildings scenario. But we are pressing ahead. We are working on fundraising efforts. We are doing the discussions with the banks with the goal of mobilizing construction so that we are ready as soon as we can to celebrate a full mission and Dogpatch campuses. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I just wanted to say one thing that these buildings are, we have an extraordinary deal with the Archdiocese to have a 60-year lease so that we have a long-term, part of what the board is most interested in is securing the future with a campus that is consistent with and with the Reggio approach. So we had to have a long lease along with where we could invest the time, the money, the design, so it's a holistic experience for the kids, that their environment is consistent with the Reggio program. So we've been slowed down a little bit in this last year, but we've been going full speed ahead to do this. And while we've slowed it a little bit, we're working diligently to hone and refine the vision with a fundraising program that will let us keep the pace going as quickly as we can. So we have flexibility in our programming, and we're actually really excited about it. And we also don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So we're balancing our enthusiasm, our excitement, and our confidence to get this financed, while at the same time being prudent and rational about it. So this, what Eric has shared with you, is a great sense of what it can be. And I mean, the fact is, you have these beautiful old historic buildings with the modern, colorful, light, joyful buildings that Michele designs. It's going to be a campus like no other. And I think Valentina's already getting requests from people from around the world saying, could you do that here in Spain or in in New York or in Turin or wherever it is? Because it really has the ability to, the potential to be a school like no other, holistically, with the design, the architecture, the program itself, and the staff. So that's a great overview, Eric. Thank you. And we look forward to sharing this with you all as we continue. Vale, is that it?
Yes, I think this is it. This was the last slide. So I think we are now gonna open it up to questions. And I'm sure you have many. Thank you so much, Eric, for such a great presentation. And again, I just wanted to, for those of you who are new, this may be the first time you hear about this. So I'm sure there's a lot of this to digest, but truly, the environment is a third teacher in a Reggio Emilia school, and we all have an opportunity to build something truly unique. And so there were some questions that were submitted before this meeting, so we're going to start with those. Thank you so much for doing that, for those of you who submitted them. And so there is one about, well, actually the first one is yours, Dani.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can read the question. So will La Scuola do a campus-wide survey to learn about how COVID has impacted the students, distance learning and in-person learning? And the answer is yes. So in January, we'll be sharing with our community a survey that is a little bit more customized for what has happened in the last, 6 months to a year. And it does have a section, it will have a section about COVID among many other things. So that will be shared. Keep an eye out for it in January. I'm going to go ahead and read the next question here. We are curious to hear from the COVID task force team about anything they have learned about the integration back to school.
So there's quite a few people in that group. Does anybody want to speak? Maybe someone who has not been highlighted already in this group. I don't know if Sanjay is on this call. Anyway, we started to get together with this team really shortly after the pandemic started. We as the leadership team, we just managed the crisis and things that were happening. And as there were many more decisions to be made, we thought it would be great to have this expert panel. I think what has been very helpful about it is that it's a group of people with different skill set and, the different expertises, and also being able to think deeply about important questions in a group. We really do believe in collaboration. We believe at La Scuola that 10 brains are always going to be better than one. And so I think maybe that's what we have learned, that through everybody's experience and passion and commitment, I think we came up with some very creative solutions. And again, in many cases, we're really ahead of our peers as we informed ourselves. We've also learned that, as I said before, I shared earlier, it's really good to look at the local and the global. There is so much we learned from data that we were seeing overseas. And even though maybe we could not take action right away, we knew where things were going. So I would say that staying flexible is definitely one thing we learned. We also continue to see, that everybody's experiencing this crisis differently. Everyone is in a different place. As I've said this before, we're in this stormy sea with many different boats, but we will all make it there together.
I'm going to read the next question here. In response to the pandemic, what unanticipated financial and or non-financial needs does the school have?
Board member wants to take this one? Shall I assign this? So maybe Aaron, you want to jump in on this. Obviously, I think something that's unique is that a lot of people are struggling in the pandemic. Some people are not. So I think keeping our annual giving going last year, having a strong annual giving has also been, I think, key for us to be able to offer relief to those families that will really experience hardship. It's a very fluid situation, so I think we want to stay committed to our tuition assistance, sliding scale tuition budget, and making sure that we can support those of us who are struggling in the pandemic. I think that's very important. As the board, shared, I think this is a board that's very cautious and conservative when thinking about the finances of the school, and also very daring and innovative when thinking about the future, which I think is really ideal under the circumstances. Does any board member want to add to this? And yes, wish list is great, actually. Thank you for thinking of that. I know.
one thing I would say, not on the financial side, but I think it's really important for all of us to recognize that we all impact the community that we're in. And, I love the fact that, we've all taken the pledge to make sure that we're really committing to what we need to do, each of us. But I think it's, everybody's getting to the point where we're sick and tired of this pandemic, but really help is around the corner, and a vaccine is hopefully coming soon. So I would really urge everyone, especially as we're going into the holidays, to really make sure that you guys are all being safe, because we are all in this together. And, it is hard, but hopefully we will be out of this soon. So final stretch.
So more questions, I think, can be added on the chat. Joel, do you have any more? Are you managing the questions?
Yes, doesn't look like we have any right now.
So feel free to add questions in the chat if you have any pressing one now for any of us. We're also aware of the fact that this is probably one of the many Zoom meetings you had today, and it's 6:30, and you may be eager to go have dinner or just relax. Goodness, we really did what we did what we say we never do to students, which is true. We have been talking at you for 1.5 hours without giving the opportunity to inquire or ask engaging questions. So please know that we don't do that in the classrooms of La Scuola, because you see this is the effect it has on people. Okay.
Actually, we do have one question. When will the decision to finalize which grades will be at Mission Campus in 2021, 2022? When will that decision be made?
It's a very good question. It is contingent on many things that need to happen by then. First step has been for us to reach out to the city of San Francisco and ask them if they would consider the possibility of us using portables for maybe a longer period of time. Typically, as those of you who remember when our growing KA program was still in the dark patch, we had portable classrooms where now the Grandissimi building stands. It's hard to believe, my own son who graduated last year from La Scuola was in that very portable, and typically in San Francisco, you're only allowed to have those buildings for a year because I think the unique circumstances now, they would allow any school to have them for a longer period of time. So we're in the process of talking to different vendors and to the city, and also figuring out a very clever plan to potentially have them where this convent stands. I will not bore you with the engineering challenges that entails. Something that as you know, my background is in material science and engineering, so it excites me. Will probably bore you, but we're working on that. And as soon as we know, we will let you know. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I know this was long, and again, a lot of information. Reach out to myself, the incredible La Scuola board. And really, again, I want to close by thanking the whole La Scuola team that includes you, the parents, but really the facilities team, our admin team that in the background keeps our campus open and going. Christina, Savannah, and Julia, you know, you're always keeping everything moving behind the scenes. The leadership team and the faculty. And thank you, faculty members who are here tonight. I know this is a long day for you, so we really appreciate you finding the time to be here tonight. Grazie parents and children, if there are any of you, and you know, until next time, buona serata a tutti. Grazie mille for being here with us. Oh, one last thank you. Sorry, then I let you go, I promise. Our PALS, our Parent Association, our PALS co-chair, who I thought were presenting, but obviously they weren't tonight. So thank you, Bridget and Heather, for leading the efforts and keeping our community connected at a time when it's not easy to do so. Grazie mille.
Okay, thank you, Vale. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.